know what they have to do. They're both great fighters. This fight's going to be something special. If Tyson wins, there'll be a trilogy.
Frank, a magnificent fight week started off with a bit of a bump. Dennis had a VADA test, returned an adverse finding, which we're going to sit down and watch the process slowly, because I think a lot of lessons have been learned from previous cases. One thing I think was positive that came out of that was the swiftness with which it was dealt with, and the situation now plays out properly.
Absolutely. You know, VADA found his urine sample positive. His blood sample was negative.
Okay.
I've spoken with him, obviously, and he swears that he's not done anything illegal. He's taken oaths on it and everything. He's obviously got a B sample, so that'll have to be tested, and depending on the result of that, then there'll be a hearing which will be convened by UCAD after the Boxing Board of Control, as you know, have suspended him. Then he will, if his B sample shows up to be positive, then he'll have to give an explanation as to why those PEDs were in his system.
One of the byproducts of some more recent cases that have been nothing to do with you or Queensberry, there's a suspicion around the sport. The fact that, you know, Turkey's putting these shows on and they're out in the desert, people might think that this sort of stuff will be covered up even easier.
No.
That the way this has been ruthlessly dealt with, you know, it's cost the fight, I know you found a replacement, it's cost a great trade fight between two great boxers.
It's a great fight.
You haven't worried about saving people.
It's
just
a great
done
fight,
right.
And, you know, if somebody's tested positive, that's what it's going to be. But it's very frustrating all around. You invest in someone, which we have in Dennis's career for 5 years, and he's in the biggest fight of his career, and that would have, had he come through the fight, would have led on to a fantastic year for him next year. Now he's got a bigger fight on his hands. It's got to be some explanations, as I said, if his B sample shows that it's positive, and also I'd like to know about his blood test being negative. So there's a lot, you know, we're seeing how it all pans out. But it's been dealt with. We don't want it hanging around. It's, you know, he doesn't want the stigma of it. Get on with it, deal with it, and hopefully, if what he's saying is true, and it'll be okay, but we'll see.
On to the magnificent fight that is still topping the bill. When you hear that Tyson hasn't spoke to Paris or the kids for 3 months, as a real family man, you know, do you think you could have ever have done that if he was in the ring?
Focus, that's all he's interested in. Since being in the ring with him, immediately after that fight when they announced the decision, he thought he won it, I thought he just won it, but it was a very close fight, split decision. For me, there was a fag paper in it, who could have got it. He wanted that rematch. He said it in the ring, I want to fight him again. And anyway, we are where we are. That's been his mantra all the way through it. He really feels he wants that. He feels he has the beating of Usyk. They both shared the ring together. They've had 12 brutal rounds in the best heavyweight fight of the 21st century. 4 belts were on the line then. They know each other's strengths and weaknesses. We're in a situation now where can either of them exploit those weaknesses. They know what they have to do. They're both great fighters. As I said earlier, best fighters of their generation, heavyweights. We're going to be in for something special. Tyson, going into the last fight, there was dreadful stuff that came out, news that came out about Paris having a miscarriage. It was an awful thing to happen. And remember, going into that fight, he suffered a cut roughly, I think it was about 3 months, whatever it was, before the fight. Sparring, going into a training camp with that, and it was quite a bad cut. It wasn't an ideal preparation. No excuses. The point I'm making this time round, focus, no problems, get on with it, and that's what he's got to do.
No excuses is exactly what Tyson said to us, British media, when he told us about what Paris went through.
Yeah.
And when we spoke to Andy Lee, who's known him his life, he said even he noticed fight week, the day of the fight, they had a walk that Tyson was a bit sadder, a bit more quiet. It must have been a hell of a burden. He's demanded we don't ever say it was an excuse, but it must have been crippling. Yeah,
of course it was. I mean, for anybody it must be, and there's no doubt about that. But at the end of the day, you know, Tyson is a very pragmatic person, philosophical, and, you know, he got on with it. He's a fighting man. So's Usyk, by the way. They're fighting men, both of them. I mean, they're unbelievable sportsmen, unbelievable boxers in the toughest of all sports. And this fight's going to be something special. This will be special now. For me, Usyk knows he's got to push Tyson back. That's what he did in the very first round. Bell went, he came out. And Tyson knows he's got to push Usyk back. So you're going to get that. That's what's going to happen. That is what's going to happen. Centre of ring, and it's going to be a fight.
Some of us have been lucky enough to have a few little private talks with Turkey that they're all off the record, we can't quote him.
Yeah.
But it did seem that he was so focused on finally giving us AJ and Fury. And we almost felt that win, lose or draw Tyson Usyk this Saturday, that one was happening. Tyson seems to think that the damage AJ's taken from Daniel Dubois, that if he wins, the trilogy is now on. I appreciate there's so many moving parts.
It's contracted. If Tyson wins, which I believe he will, and neither of them retire, by the way, there'll be a trilogy. No doubt about that. That will happen.